Hello, glad to see you on the channel. Subscribe, leave a like, and don't forget to write a comment. Enjoy watching.
I'll be honest, New Year's has never really been my thing. Too much glitter, too much pressure, too many fake smiles over flutes of cheap champagne, pretending we're all just peachy while thinking about unpaid credit cards and people we're quietly angry at. But this year, I told myself I'd show up different. Not New Year, new me different, just present. I wore a deep green satin-wrapped dress I got on clearance, had a dramatic sleeve, a neckline that made me look like I had cleavage for once, and matched the emerald studs my mom left me before she passed. I did my hair, I put on lipstick, and I drove over to my sister Aubrey's house 30 minutes early. Mistake number one. Her house, of course, looked like a damn Pinterest board had exploded inside of it. All gold accents and dried pampas grass, bowls of organic pomegranate seeds on marble trays, and that annoying cinnamon pine smell pumped through a diffuser so strong it made my eyes water. Aubrey greeted me with air kisses and a judgmental once-over, the kind that starts at your boots and ends at your eyebrows. She smiled, tight-lipped. Green, huh, she said. Very bold. Which we all know is code for what the hell are you wearing? The rest of the family trickled in shortly after. Our dad, her husband Drew, her two kids dressed like they were catalog models, and Nana June, who I swear only shows up to criticize people's posture. Everyone was in beige or white or that blush color people call nude, even though it only matches about 4 people on Earth. I looked like a fucking ficus in the middle of a sand dune. Aubrey even joked loudly, "Look, it's the Christmas tree we forgot to take down." Everyone laughed. I smiled. That's what I do. I smile. We had dinner, dry turkey, over-roasted Brussels sprouts, wine that tasted expensive, but sharp as vinegar. Aubrey gave a toast about how we've all come so far, how she was grateful for our chosen family, and how aesthetics matter more than ever in this digital age. That last part was a dig. I could feel it. We all posed for photos in front of the fireplace. Aubrey kept directing me. "Can you move a little left, Renee?" I shuffled left. No, like, more left. Maybe crouch a little. At one point, I was basically behind Nana June's walker. I joked. "Want me to just duck out entirely?" Aubrey said, "No, don't be silly," and didn't look at me. The next morning, January 1st, I woke up with a slight headache and opened Instagram out of habit. There it was, a post from Aubrey's account. 5 people, her husband, her kids, our dad. The caption read, "The core 5, never stronger." Hashtag family goals, hashtag blessed, hashtag beige is the new black. I looked at the picture for a full minute before I realized. I wasn't in it. At all. I checked my texts. Nothing. I refreshed the post. Over 200 likes, dozens of comments from her minions, people saying, "Gorgeous family, perfect aesthetic," and my personal favorite, "You all just glow together." I stared at the screen, blinking, heart pounding not because I was sad, but because I was furious. I zoomed in, scanned the edges. My shoulder was gone. My dress was gone. I'd been erased. Not forgotten. Removed. I texted her, trying to keep it light at first. "Hey, did I vanish from last night, or are y'all just being aesthetic?" She replied 7 minutes later. "Oh, hun, it's nothing personal. You just didn't match the vibe. You know how it is. Still love you though. Still love me though." Like that's some kind of consolation prize. Like being cropped out of my own damn family's New Year's photo was a casual design choice and not a metaphor for the last 20 years of being slowly erased. The smart sister. The single one. The one who never had the right shoes or the right job or the right filter. I wasn't part of the core 5, huh? Since when did we start ranking family by how well we photograph? I sat there on my couch, in my worn-out robe, watching that little heart counter climb as people validated her curated version of the truth. And something cracked. It wasn't the first crack, no. But it was the loudest. You know that sound a mirror makes when it breaks slowly, when it starts in the corner and spiders out until the whole thing shatters into glittering lies. That was me. That moment. I opened my laptop, logged into my savings account, pulled up an advertising site I remembered from when the school district ran a fundraiser campaign a year ago. I typed in Billboard rental downtown, scrolled through the options, fingers trembling a little but steadying with each click. The dress still hung in my bedroom. The makeup still sat on the counter. I had the picture, one my dad snapped with his old iPhone, the one where I was laughing, glass of wine in hand, looking maybe the most confident I ever had. I uploaded it. The text? I typed it without even thinking. Cropped me out, but not outperformed. Aubrey wanted an aesthetic? She was about to get one she couldn't control. I clicked purchase. And as the confirmation page loaded, I whispered out loud to no one but the room, "Okay, bitch, let's go digital." You don't just wake up one day and decide to become someone's punchline. That takes years of subtle moments where you swallow it down, where you smile through the digs, where you tell yourself, she didn't mean it like that, or maybe I am overreacting. That's how it starts, little chips carved out of your self-worth, until all that's left is a girl who doesn't even flinch when her sister calls her the backup plan in family photos. But that night, after clicking purchase on a Billboard rental, something in me shifted. It wasn't rage, exactly. It was something quieter, more deliberate, like the soft click of a seatbelt before a wild ride. Still, the fire didn't start there. It started way back, long before anyone thought in hashtags or cared about ring lights. It started with a red prom dress in the spring of 1998. I'd begged Mom to let me buy it, sleek, satin, spaghetti straps, a little slit up the side. I tried it on in the Macy's fitting room and felt, for the first time, like maybe I could be seen. I told Mom I felt pretty. She smiled, and that should have been enough. But 2 weeks later, that same dress was hanging in Aubrey's closet. She wore it to her prom the year after me, paired it with her perfect blonde updo and shimmery eyeshadow, and suddenly she was the one who looked like a magazine cover. People forgot I wore it first. They forgot I was even there. That's how it always was. Dad's 60th birthday, he gave a toast about the joys of fatherhood and only mentioned one daughter by name. I clapped anyway. When Aubrey launched her lifestyle brand, complete with bath beads, overpriced essential oils, and a line of eucalyptus-scented hand soaps, I helped her write the product descriptions because she didn't do words, but my name didn't appear on a single page. When she got married, I caught the bouquet. Someone behind me whispered, "God, she always tries too hard." So yeah, maybe the billboard was petty. Maybe it was dramatic. But when you spend a lifetime being the extra pounds, the extra seat at the table, the extra comment everyone forgets, you start to wonder what would happen if you finally took up space. So I did. I called Rita the next day, asked her to meet me for drinks at the dive bar off Fremont, the one with the sticky tables and the jukebox that only plays 80s ballads. She was already sipping her usual rum and Diet Coke with way too much ice. I ordered a whiskey neat. No messing around. She saw it in my face before I said a word. "Who do I have to fight?" she asked. I laughed, bitter and low. "Aubrey," I said again. She winced like I'd said something dirty. Damn, it's always Aubrey. I told her about the photo, the cropping, the comment, her response. All of it. Rita didn't blink. She just said, "I may not be aesthetic, but I've got a bank account, a sense of humor, and all my original teeth. So what now?" I grinned into my glass. I bought a billboard. Rita choked on her drink, coughed hard enough to turn heads from the corner pool table. "You did what?" "Downtown," I said, still grinning. "Biggest one on Main and 12th. Week-long rental." She leaned in like we were plotting a heist. "How much did that run you?" "I priced it at around $2,500 for 1 week," I said casually. "That's like $500 a day." "Wait, no, 600? Whatever. Math isn't aesthetic either." We cackled, the kind of laughter that comes from women who've spent too long biting their tongues. Then came the fun part, choosing the photo. I had hundreds to scroll through, but I kept landing on that same one. The one from New Year's, where I'd actually looked damn good. The lighting hit just right, my skin had that healthy wine glow, and for once my hair looked like it was cooperating. I wasn't trying to look young, just alive, and there's a difference. I added the photo, and then the words. I typed them in all caps because I wanted people to see them before they even read them. Cropped me out, but not outperformed. Short, punchy, a little savage. Just enough bite to leave a scar. When I clicked upload, my heart didn't pound. It settled. Like my body finally aligned with the woman I had been hiding for decades. Not better than Aubrey. Not prettier. Just there. And not going anywhere. Rita raised her glass. Here's to cheeks, beads, and bombshells. I clinked mine against hers. Let's see if beige can handle this aesthetic. The screen blinked once, then showed a giant purchase confirmed in big blue letters. And just like that, I wasn't extra anymore. I was the main event. There are very few moments in a woman's life when she feels so entirely in control that it becomes almost intoxicating, like slipping into a skin she forgot she owned, one that fits not because it hides her, but because it finally shows who she's been all along. And that's exactly what I felt that morning, driving down Main and 12th with my coffee still hot in one hand and my breath caught somewhere in my throat, waiting for the skyline to split and reveal what I had done. And there it was. Big, bold, unmissable, and completely me. The billboard was impossible to ignore, not that I wanted anyone to try. My face filled the space with unapologetic light, me in that green dress, one shoulder angled just right, a half-smile tugging at my lips, holding a wine glass like I had a secret I wasn't quite ready to share. The caption underneath glowed with high-contrast letters like a challenge, sharp and glossy across the vinyl, cropped me out, but not outperformed. Happy New Year, Instagram. And I swear I felt taller just looking at it. People noticed. Oh, did they notice? Within an hour, someone had snapped a picture of it and posted it on Reddit under a thread titled, "When Pettiness Turns into High Art." It spread fast, shared on Twitter with hashtags like #BillboardQueen and #FamilyDramaGoals. The comments rolled in like a wave, strangers writing things like legend behavior, I need this energy in my life, and my personal favorite, green dress supremacy. But it didn't stop there. It hit the local Facebook mom groups by lunchtime, which meant it had officially crossed into suburban gossip gold. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, my phone rang with her name glowing on the screen. I let it buzz twice before answering with a flat hello. On the other end, Aubrey's voice came in tight and cracked with panic, the kind she usually reserved for when she misplaces her phone charger or sees a wrinkle under her eye. "Renee, what the hell did you do?" she hissed, as if she could keep the volume down enough to keep the shame from leaking out. I took a sip of my drink and leaned back in my chair, smiling because it felt so damn good to not be the one scrambling for the right words. "You mean, what did I post? Or what did I fix?" I said slowly, drawing it out like caramel, watching her squirm from miles away. "You're embarrassing the family," she snapped, voice sharp like broken glass in ballet slippers. I let the silence sit between us for a second before I replied, "You did that first." And I hung up. Minutes later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize at first. It was Ethan, her son, my nephew. We hadn't spoken directly in months, not since I showed up at his school play and Aubrey acted like I'd crashed a black tie gala. The message was short, but it landed heavy in my chest. "I think you won." That's all it said, but it was enough to make me put my phone down and blink at the ceiling like maybe the whole world had shifted just a little. Then came the call from Dad, and that one I didn't expect. He's not a phone guy. He's a sit in silence and watch golf kind of guy. But he called. He cleared his throat first, like men do when emotions sneak up on them and they're too proud to say it plain. "That's my girl," he said, chuckling low and warm. "Always had a fire. Your mom would have liked it." That part hit harder than I thought it would. I didn't cry, but my jaw clenched in that way it does when your heart's too full and too sore all at once. By sunset, Aubrey was back in my inbox with something far more dramatic than her usual passive-aggressive texts. She had sent me an email. A long, rambling monologue about how I had crossed a line, how the post was defamatory, how it could affect her business, how clients were asking questions, and how the family unit was never meant to be made into a spectacle. She ended it with a veiled threat about legal action, citing a vague lawyer friend and image rights. I read the whole thing twice. Then I read it again out loud, just to hear how ridiculous it sounded. She was worried about defamation? From her own sister? For being called out by someone she literally cropped out of her curated reality? So I did what any self-respecting woman with a slightly dangerous sense of humor and a paid-up Billboard contract would do. I laughed. And then I opened my laptop, uploaded round 2. This time, I chose a different picture, a shot of me in a white t-shirt, no makeup, eating pancakes in my kitchen. Just smiling, real, and unfiltered. I captioned it with something that burned just slow enough to be poetic. Aesthetic is what you see. Character is what you crop. I clicked publish before I could think twice, leaned back, and smiled at my screen like a queen on her digital throne. Because some people post for attention. Others rent 40-foot billboards and take the whole damn town. I hadn't planned on turning the Billboard drama into a social media saga, but then again, none of this was ever planned. It just sort of unfolded, like a long, unraveling scarf you tug at absent-mindedly until the whole thing's in your lap, and you realize there's no going back. After round 2 went live and the town got its fill of honking their horns at my grinning face over the pancake caption, I figured, why not explain myself? Not apologize, not defend. Just lay it out with the same dry tone I always use when the universe decides to throw shade. So I filmed a TikTok. Nothing fancy, just me, sitting in my kitchen, a little eyeliner smudged from the night before, hair up in a bun that had clearly given up on structure. I hit record and said, so here's the deal. You ever show up to your own family event and realize you're the villain in their curated fantasy? I did. But instead of crying into a cup of Prosecco, I did what any emotionally repressed oldest daughter with a savings account and a petty streak would do. I went full-time square on their asses. I paused, then added, and before you ask, yes, it was worth every dollar, and no, I don't want a beige sweater for next Christmas. The thing blew up faster than I could refresh the notifications. Within hours, it had hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of comments, people tagging their siblings, strangers offering to Venmo me money for the petty Queen Billboard fund, and a flood of new followers who thought I was either unhinged, iconic, or both. The comments were wild, half cheering me on with, finally someone did it, and the other half arguing about whether calling out family in public was bold or just plain cruel. One user wrote, "This is performance art. I want to major in this." Another said, "As someone cropped out of 3 wedding albums, I salute you." But the fallout came just as fast. It started with subtle shade on Aubrey's Instagram, posts about toxic family members, quotes about protecting your peace, and a story that said, "You can't be cropped if you never mattered." Real mature, very therapeutic. But what came next hit her harder. People started digging into her brand, her bath beads, her eucalyptus candles, her curated nonsense, and began leaving reviews like "smells like fake sisterhood" or "didn't come with a side of passive aggression." The tone shifted. She was no longer the sweet, beige goddess of the suburbs. She was the villain in someone else's story. Mine. Then, out of nowhere, Ethan showed up at my door. I hadn't seen him in person since Thanksgiving, when he spent half the night on his phone and the other half rolling his eyes at every adult in the room. But now, standing on my porch, hands stuffed in the pockets of a worn hoodie, he looked like a kid caught between 2 realities he couldn't quite hold at once. "I just wanted to see you," he said. "And I don't care what my mom says." I let him in, made him a sandwich, and we sat at my kitchen table like we used to when he was 9 and told me he wanted to run away because Aubrey made him wear church shoes to the mall. He stared at the floor for a long while, then finally looked up and said something that stopped me in my tracks. I always felt like you were the only one who really saw me. It hit different. Not just because it was sweet, but because I realized something I hadn't fully admitted to myself yet. This whole Billboard thing, the public posts, the pointed captions, it wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about being seen. About not fading quietly into someone else's narrative. About finally yelling, "Hey, I exist too," even if it meant buying a damn billboard to do it. But leave it to Rita to bring the plot twist. We were drinking wine on my couch, cackling at some of the newer comments on my TikTok, when she suddenly stopped mid-laugh and said, "Okay, listen, I wasn't gonna tell you this, but apparently Aubrey's not pissed about the posts." I blinked. Then what the hell is she pissed about? Rita grinned, one of those slow, evil grins like a cat sitting on a confession. "Drew," she said. "Her husband. He's been liking every single one of your billboard pics. Every single one. Even the one with the syrup on your shirt." I choked on my wine, not because I cared about Drew, God no, but because it made so much sense. Aubrey wasn't just furious I'd gone public. She was humiliated that her husband, the guy she constantly paraded as proof she'd won at life, was out here double-tapping photos of the sister she tried to erase. The aesthetic queen couldn't handle losing control of the narrative or her man's attention. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. 2 days later, an envelope showed up in my mailbox. No return address, no handwriting on the front, just my name. Inside were 5 old family photos, ones I hadn't seen in years. There we were, Aubrey and me as kids, matching Christmas pajamas, the family reunion at the lake, Mom holding us both like she hadn't yet decided which one would grow up resented. And then there was one final photo. It was from the New Year's Eve party, printed in glossy color. Everyone was smiling, posing in their beige perfection. And right where I had stood, green dress, wine glass, laugh caught in motion, my entire body had been violently torn out. Not cut with scissors. Torn. Jagged edges. A hole where I used to be. No note. No explanation. Just absence, delivered on paper. And suddenly, the billboard didn't feel quite so big anymore. There comes a point, after the applause fades and the screens go dark, when all the online comments in the world can't drown out the sound of your own heart trying to tell you the truth, especially when the truth isn't nearly as clean or flattering as the version you posted. I'd been riding the wave, no doubt about that. From being cropped out of a filtered fantasy to being immortalized 50 feet high over Main Street, I'd let my bitterness stretch its legs and take up the space it had been denied for years. But when that envelope came, when I held that torn photo in my hand like a physical manifestation of absence, I knew this wasn't just about what had been done to me. It was about what had been building between us since we were little girls in matching pajamas, pretending we liked each other more than we really did. I didn't text her. I didn't post. I didn't announce it. I just got in my car and drove to her house, the one with the glossy hydrangeas in the front and that stupid ceramic welcome sign that always felt like a lie. She answered the door in yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, hair half up, no makeup, eyes puffy like maybe she'd been crying, or maybe she was just exhausted from spinning so many stories at once. We stood there for a moment, not saying anything, both of us waiting for the other to break the silence. Finally, I said, "We need to talk, and not online. Just us." She nodded, stepped aside, and let me in. No ring lights. No filters. No curated background. Just the smell of a burnt candle and tension so thick it pressed against my ribs. We sat across from each other on the same couch where we'd once shared bowls of popcorn and episodes of Friends, back when the world still felt small and manageable and we hadn't yet learned how to turn resentment into a full-time job. I didn't start with anger this time. I asked, "Why did you send the photo?" Her mouth opened, then closed, like the answer was too big to fit through her teeth. She looked down at her hands, picked at a thread on her sleeve, and finally whispered, "I didn't mean to crop you out." That wasn't the plan. Then what was the plan? I asked, and it came out harsher than I meant. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot like you wanted the perfect family photo, and I didn't make the cut. She shook her head slowly, eyes glassy now. It wasn't about the photo, she said. It was about trying to take back my life. You've always been the one people liked more, Renee. Even when you weren't trying. Especially then. That stopped me. What? I blinked, confused and angry and already tired of the game. That's not even remotely true. It is, she said, louder this time. It always has been. You were Mom's favorite, even though she never said it. You made Dad laugh in ways I never could. You were smart and funny, and everyone felt something around you. And I was just the one who looked good in pictures. So yeah, maybe I tried to make something of that. Maybe I built a life around being the one who matched the aesthetic because that's all anyone expected from me. But the second you posted that billboard, people stopped seeing me and started seeing you again. And I hated it. We sat in that bitter silence, both of us stripped down to the ugliest truths we'd never said out loud. I told her how invisible I'd felt for years, how her jokes always landed just a little too hard, how I'd convinced myself I was unworthy because she made it seem like I didn't belong in our own family. She told me how exhausting it was to be perfect, how she couldn't breathe without worrying about appearances, how terrified she was that people would see through her curated world and find nothing underneath. We cried. Ugly, messy, grown woman sobs that didn't fix anything but loosen something that had been locked up too long. We apologized, but not for the sake of resolution, more like two soldiers nodding at the battlefield they'd just barely walked away from. And then I left. No hugs. No dramatic reunion music. Just a quiet understanding that some things don't mend, but they stop bleeding. A few days later, I bought another billboard. This one didn't have my picture on it. No bold colors. No facial expressions. Just a plain white background with thick black text that said, "Family isn't an aesthetic. It's a mess, and sometimes the mess fights back." I didn't post it. I didn't hashtag it. I just let it stand there, big and unapologetic, while the world kept scrolling. People asked if it was for Aubrey. Some thought it was about something deeper. A few tried to turn it into a meme. But I didn't answer them. Not this time. I logged out of TikTok the next morning and quietly deleted my account. The silence felt good, like fresh snow over old footprints. The torn photo stayed on my desk for days before I finally framed it, not because I wanted to remember the pain, but because I wanted to honor the space I used to occupy. The negative space was mine, too. The absence had meaning. You don't get erased unless you were there in the first place. They say revenge is best served cold. But sometimes, it's best served on a 70-foot LED screen downtown with 600,000 daily impressions and a caption that burns quieter than fire. And as for Aubrey, let's just say some wounds scab over and some stay tender forever. We're still sisters. But now we see each other clearly, for better, worse, and whatever comes next.